Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about Jimmy Kimmel and his remarks about Andrew Yang. So on April 7th, Jimmy Kimmel on his national show, which is internationally watched, right, made a comment about Andrew Yang. He did a small clip on Andrew Yang. It's on his April 7th show. You can see it right on YouTube. And basically what he said was he did two things in this piece, right? And basically he said he showed a clip of Andrew Yang. So his team and him went through literally probably hundreds of hours of video and found the absolute worst moment for Andrew Yang, put it on film and said, "Oh, look at this Andrew Yang," and then laughed at the clip, right? And then said, "Is this a real candidate, or is this my stoner nephew running for prom king?" Right? So Jimmy Kimmel did a piece on Andrew Yang and said, "Is this a real candidate?" Right? Now, here's the point of this video. I think Jimmy Kimmel owes Andrew Yang a massive, immediate apology, right? And that what Jimmy Kimmel did was absolutely unconscionable, right? Now, I hear you. You're like, wait. Jimmy Kimmel is a professional comedian. That's literally his job, is to insult people, right? And I will give you a hard no, right? Times have changed, right? So let's get through it, right? So one, the job of comedian has massively changed, and we do not accept punching down from comedians anymore. We don't accept it, right? We don't, right? And so I'll give you a perfect example of this, right? James Gunn, he's a director for a multi-billion-dollar property for Disney. He did some absolutely horrific jokes, right? Like probably like a decade ago. And Disney found them, they were shown to Disney, and Disney went, like, in a day, Disney was like, "You're straight fired," right? It might have taken a little more than a day, not much, right? They fired him publicly for jokes. And the reason why is today, there's way more criteria on what you can joke about and what you can't, right? Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, comedians punch down all the time. I will define punching down in a moment. But you can't punch down anymore. You can't, right? And there's just there's like a potter's field of comedians that are gone because they punch down, right? And Jimmy Kimmel, now, let's be super clear. Jimmy Kimmel had every right to mock and insult Andrew Yang, right? What I'm saying is that we now get to call him out and say what you did was wrong and unconscionable, right? Yes, we understand that comedians do this, but in today's day, we can come right back. We can clap back and say, what you said was wrong, it was unconscionable, and you owe him an apology, right? That's the new day. That's where we're at, right? So let's get into it. I'll make my case for why Jimmy Kimmel owes Andrew Yang a massive apology. All right, so let's lay it out, okay? So I'm gonna tell you a story here, and it is apropos. All right. So when I was young, I got mocked and insulted for two things. So I was about 8, 9, 10 years old. Okay, and I would get mocked because my ears were big and because of my shoes. All right. So basically, my shoes were never name brand. They were always bought at like a Payless type store. And the reason why was my parents were like, my parents had plenty of money. My dad had a great job, and he brought home quite a bit, right? And really, I never lacked a single provision. I never lacked for anything, and I got a lot of what I wanted too, right? My parents provided for me incredibly well, right? And we were upper middle class, right? And the reality is, but I would get mocked at school by this kid who would say I was poor, right? Because of my shoes, right? And because I didn't have name brand shoes, right? It was so frustrating. It was a deep cut. To tell you the truth, I really cared a lot more about the shoe comments than I did about the ear comments, right? And because it was so, like, the reality is, one of the things that hurt the most was it wasn't true, right? Like, I did have big ears, right? Still, you shouldn't mock people for, like, features of their face or features on their head or anywhere else, right? You shouldn't do that, right? But the reality is, I actually did have big ears, but the reality is, we weren't poor, right? And the reality is, it was a deep cut. It hurt really, really bad. I remember specifically, right? We're all sitting at this table, right? Two of my nerd friends are next to me, and then the soccer team is sitting over, like literally like half a dozen, maybe close to 10 people from the soccer team are sitting over there, and I walk over, right? Actually, I walked over. People saw my shoes, right? And I'm coming to sit next to my friends, and this kid, I'm going to call him Richard. That wasn't his real name. So Richard says, Garibay, you look like your mom bought one of your shoes at Payless and picked the other out of the trash, right? And everybody on the soccer team just kind of laughed, or they just laughed, right? And my friends would just kind of like return to their juice boxes, right, and said nothing, right? And my heart just like sunk in my chest, and it was bad. I really felt bad. And the biggest one was, it was bought at a no brand store, right? And then the other thing is, when I was a kid, I was a big reader. I've been a big reader. I'm still a big reader. But I would sit in my garage, in our family's garage, and I would sit on this like stool, and I would read, right? And there was like this cinder block, and I was always kicking the cinder block with my right foot, right, as I would read. I'd do it rhythmically, and it would just tear up my shoes, right? And my parents were always like, why is one of your shoes always torn up, right? Because, and I was like, I don't know, really. So, but like, it did look like it got picked out of the trash, and it was no brand, and it just cut me. Like, it eviscerated me, right? And so, I remember that to this day. And the reason why it just hurt so bad was this kid was punching down, right? I was low status. I was a nerd, right? He was a jock, right? He had a whole team of people who would back up any nonsense he said. My friends, they didn't want to incur the wrath of the jocks, right? So I had nobody who was going to help me and defend me against these kind of comments, right? And so I had low platform, and he had high platform, right? He was punching down, right? And it aggravated and hurt so much. Well, when I saw what Jimmy Kimmel did, boy, did I see a punching down, right? So here's why Jimmy Kimmel owes Andrew Yang a massive apology, right? And what he did was unconscionable and wrong, right? So here's the thing. Jimmy Kimmel virtually every night, goes on and absolutely eviscerates Donald Trump. Says all kinds of super mean things to Donald Trump, right? And you know what? We laugh with him. He laughs at Trump. We laugh with him. Why is that? Why is that different, right? Well, here's why. He's punching up, right? Donald Trump can get on the horn and call up any world leader and say, I want to come over for dinner, I want to meet, blah, 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 right? I want, right? And that call is going to get taken, right? Somebody might say no to him, but if there's somebody who, a world leader who says no, there's going to be ramifications to that no, right? Because Donald Trump has power. He has billions of dollars. He has, people who have his back, right? So when, scrub Jimmy Kimmel, right, in comparison, is just a talk show host, right, makes fun of him, he's punching up, right? Jimmy Kimmel can't call world leaders. He ain't got those numbers, right? He is low platform, punching at a high platform, right? But here's the kicker. When when Jimmy Kimmel went to eviscerate, right, with his insult, Andrew Yang on April 7th, here's the difference, right? So one, Jimmy Kimmel, basically he chose him, right? And he said, is this a real candidate? Now, here's the kicker. Andrew Yang is in the weeds. He's fighting so hard to get out of that 2-3%, right? That 2-3% polling that he's currently on, right? And why is he there? Why is he struggling to get out of the 2-3% polls, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them, Jimmy Kimmel knows, right? So, Jimmy Kimmel could have said a whole bunch of things. He could have insulted his policies. He could have insulted a whole bunch of things. But here's the kicker, right? Why is Andrew, in this circumstance, why is Andrew Yang at a low platform and Jimmy Kimmel at a high platform? Well, here's why, right? Right now, Andrew Yang is struggling to get out of the 2-3% and get into that 20, 30, 40% that Biden and Buttigieg are enjoying, right? Now, why isn't he there? I'll tell you one reason that he's not there is Andrew Yang is American Asian. He is a minority. I do not talk about this a lot. I don't like to talk about it. It's not that important about Andrew Yang when you're talking about anything else, right? But the reality is he's a minority status candidate, and he has got to fight past the prejudice of the media and the public, right? And there is, to this day, prejudice for virtually every minority in America, right? If you are low intersectionality, then you're not going to get the slings and arrows that minorities are going to get. And Andrew Yang is an American Asian, right? And that's the issue, right? Jimmy Kimmel is punching down. He is punching down on a candidate who is struggling to get his numbers up and struggling against the prejudice that has come against him, right? Now get this. Jimmy Kimmel, I think some people are going to be like, well, he's a professional comedian. He could do that. No, he cannot. And the reason why is Jimmy Kimmel on the regular, right, puts on the woke cape, pretends he is woke, right? Every time there's a tragedy in this country, he says, let me put away my brick wall and my microphone and talk to you Americans, because I'm on the right side of history. I'm fighting the good fight. I am woke, right? And that's the issue. He pretends to be woke. Well, guess what? If you're pretending you're on the right side of history, if you're pretending that you understand the history of this nation and you are woke, then you cannot punch down on a minority candidate as they are building their momentum. That is not right. It is not right. Now, if you're Bill Burr, fine, go at it. Nobody ever pretended he was anything but a repugnant jerk, right? But Jimmy Kimmel pretends he's not. Right? He pretends that he's on the side of all Americans, right? He pretends that he is woke. He wears the woke cape on a regular. And guess what? I am calling him out. I am pulling his woke card, right? Basically, and the reason why is if you wear the woke cape, you do not get to punch down on a minority candidate who's building their momentum. You don't get to do that, right? It's wrong, right? And again, if his persona, right, that he chose was repugnant jerk like Bill Burr, you'd be fine, right? And guess what? Bill Burr owns that, right? He takes the slings and arrows that comes with, right? Like, he doesn't get invited to a lot of stuff. He doesn't get to perform everywhere, right? But Jimmy Kimmel is pretending that he is woke. He's pretending he's on the right side of history, right? He's pretending he's fighting the good fight. No. You do not get to wear the woke cape and then punch down on a minority candidate. It is wrong, right? And Jimmy Kimmel's like, is this a real candidate? What part of Andrew Yang is not real to you, Jimmy Kimmel? Is it the part where is it the part where he's an American tech entrepreneur? Is it the part where he has creative, adaptive intelligence? Is it the part where he shows incredible hustle and is on the daily going to coffee shops with 30, 50 people, right? And mixing that in with groups of thousands, right? Talking to Americans, hustling like crazy. This is the part where he's, purposely left his wife and children and is on the road and desperately misses them. Is that the part that's not real to you? Or maybe it's the part that he's a minority candidate and he doesn't look like you, right? It is wrong. You cannot wear the woke cape and then punch down on a minority candidates. Jimmy Kimmel owes Andrew Yang a real apology real quick. That is my opinion. I'm more than willing to hear your opinions in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a good day.